Hello, and welcome back to my channel. This video is coming kind of late because I've been really busy doing a lot of other things, even though it's no longer the new year, and even in my culture, the new year starts in April, and I'm late for even that because now we're like almost 2 months into the year. I still wanted to make this video because I think it's a fun activity that anyone can do, and I enjoyed coming up with new year goals, and it doesn't even have to be the start of a new year to do some goals. So maybe this is more of like a mid-year goal sort of video that you can use to check in on goals you may have set during the new year, or create some goals that you would still like to achieve, because a year is just 12 months. It doesn't need to be any specific date. It can start whenever. So every year I try to set a theme for what I would like to accomplish, and this year the theme was stewardship. I wanted to steward the things I already have instead of seeking or asking for more. I think there's this drive and pull in the world of like capitalism that you always need to do more, get more, have more, to like be happy or fulfilled or successful. Like I see so many things about like hobbies, and maybe you want to take up like just drawing or coloring in one of those like fancy coloring books, and then people buy whole new pen sets, whole new coloring books, when I'm sure you already own pencils, paper, you maybe own some crayons. Like you don't need the new fancy, most expensive or aesthetic sort of setup just to start a new hobby. And that was pretty much my goal for the year, is to move away from that mindset that to start something new or to be successful in what you're doing, you need something new or aesthetic to do it. And if that whole lay down your bucket where you are mentality of making the most of whatever you own in your situation. Every year I usually guide my theme through a spiritual lens of having God be the backdrop to whatever I'm trying to accomplish. I started this idea in 2022 where I called it my trusting in God era, because I think for myself personally, I tried to take control of so much and didn't just trust that God would make things happen for me or things would work out. It's like I have to have my hand in everything, controlling everything, to have faith that it will work out, when really my faith should be in God, and that if He sees it fit, then it will work out. So during that year, I worked on not leaning on my own understanding and just following God's path, and that really worked out for me. I didn't start at the beginning of the year either. I started like after I graduated college with that whole mentality. So again, with that, it doesn't have to be like the actual new year for you to start your new goals. So I started in like May of 2022, and then by May of 2023 I already had like a new job. I was going to move to a new state. There's so much going on that actually worked out for my benefit, because the job supplied housing and food, so it made moving really easy, and it was a teaching position, and I really wanted to get into education, so it was a great experience for me. This year I was trying to do something different. Like I said, I wanted to steward what I had, so not necessarily about getting more healthy or getting a new job or like writing more, anything necessarily of that nature. Is more of kind of using what I have to curate the life that I want. And also I tried to focus on less of having a bunch of detached goals was an overarching theme. I wanted the theme to link to each goal. Like my previous example of trusting in God era, like wanting to write more isn't necessarily directly linked with what I was trying to do. Like I could trust God would give me the time to write, but it's still sort of disconnected. So this year with the theme of stewardship, I really wanted all of my goals to be directly linked to that. And instead of having a separate spiritual goal, like the entire theme of spiritual stewardship is linked with each goal. For some background, I came up with the idea of stewardship from watching a TikTok about a woman talking about how she stewarded what she owns by utilizing her kitchen, because she always was waiting to renovate her kitchen before starting making cooking videos. And then she came to the conclusion that I don't need this aesthetic kitchen to start pursuing my passion. And I like to give that example and that background because even though I'm looking at stewardship through a spiritual lens, it doesn't even have to do anything with spirituality. Like they talk about it in a lot of religions and like spirituality if you're into that. But even in like a secular context, you can still steward what you own. Another reason for creating this goal is that I fear I'm just becoming spoiled. I usually congratulate myself for not falling into overconsumption, but I do think there's a lot of times where I buy new things where it wasn't really necessary. Like I just want a new pen set. Like when I became a teacher, I bought all new highlighters and stationery because it just felt like, oh, I need this as a teacher to have a nice matching pen set. And a million of these like free pens you get from like schools and jobs, like when you go to the bank or something, they just give you a pen. I own a bunch of those, so I didn't need to buy a whole new set of especially black pens. Like you can get that anywhere. It was kind of just a waste of money because I felt like, oh, I want it to be aesthetic for no reason. I get why people want things to be aesthetic. I think it's just can be nice and kind of give you motivation to do things. But I just felt my mind was getting too hooked on things being aesthetic instead of actually having a purpose and a use, and buying things where it just wasn't necessary. And I saw this in other places in my life. So, like, I like to read, and then I would think, oh, I need a whole new highlighter and tab set and like sticky notes and things of that nature just to annotate a book. When I own a bunch of tabs, I own old sticky notes. Like I said, I have pens, I have highlighters. Everything doesn't need to be super aesthetic and for me to actually utilize it. And then those things actually go to waste because you buy new highlighters and you actually use those, but then those old highlighters or markers or pens are just sitting there not being used. And then you go through the new stuff and then you buy even newer things, and then those old things just go to waste. And if you ever heard of, I think it's called the Pan Project, which kind of started of using all of your makeup until you like hit the pan of your makeup. It's kind of also that sort of thought process helped inspire this year's goal, because like I want to use my pens until they run out. I want to use my highlighters, my markers, my notebooks, my everything until it runs out. And if I keep buying new things, I won't ever accomplish it, because there's always a new journal, a new pen, a new whatever that I think I really want. And I think it also makes getting the new stuff better, because it's like I actually finished a journal. So now like I've earned the right to get a new journal. Even using old journals, like old school journals that I never completed. Some like journals I've only used like 10, 20 pages of like a 300-page journal, and then it just sits in my closet going to waste. So I wanted to utilize that stuff, even if it's not my main journal. Like I mentioned, you might want to color and draw. Like you could use that old journal for that. You can use the old journal for scrapbooking if you need to tear up pages or paint something. So there's a lot of uses to our old things that I don't think always get utilized. I think it also goes back to like sustainability, not just that overconsumption adds to issues, but that sometimes even in our goal of being more sustainable, we throw out some less sustainable things that could have still been used. Like I got pens that you can refill the ink, but then like I said, I still have pens like this. I'm not going to throw these pens out because they're less sustainable. I'm going to use them until they're done and then just not buy any more pens like that. But sometimes I think we can get caught up in the moment and think, oh, we need to throw out all of these non-sustainable things or all of these brands we no longer agree with, but you already own the thing, so you might as well just use it up and then never buy from that brand again, or never buy that unsustainable thing again. And I'm also big on traveling, and whenever I feel like my life is kind of boring if I don't go out or travel, and if I'm not on a plane going somewhere. But I've done a lot more like self-reflecting, especially after like a health scare I had like last year, and I realized that constantly being active and being moving and traveling around isn't always coming from something that I want to do, but something that I feel like I have to do to prove I'm not like a boring person who, because it becomes like, oh, I want to make the Instagram post or the TikTok to like prove to my friends that I do things, when it's actually okay to just sit in one spot and not do anything. So you don't need to travel or always do something like exciting to, especially to prove something to other people. Like if that's your interest, and yeah, of course, go and do that. But if it's because you want to prove that you do things, it's really not necessary. If you're truly my friend, you don't care if I'm going out or something. I don't need to prove anything to you. All of these ideas culminated to that main thought of stewardship, and just using what I have and not letting things go to waste, and using those old things to curate the life I want. I also want to gain like a renewedness of life. I think that can be done by reconnecting myself to the moment and spending time like fostering different parts of myself. And these parts I have separated into my goals for the year. So they all link to the idea of stewardship, but I've kind of separated what I'm going to steward into separate goals to help reconnect with myself. I think also part of that move capitalist mentality is causing me to deconnect with myself, where life is just something you go through like a chore, that you check certain boxes, and I'm not really enjoying anything I'm doing because I'm not actually living in the moment. But the concepts or goals I want to steward for this year is rejection, creativity, being alive, charity, and knowledge. I set prayers for each goal to ask God to help me and guide me through my pursuits, and I can show you those in a second. I decorated them through Canva. I love Canva, and it just helps me like kind of get motivated to do things when it's kind of pretty. And again, that's a way to make it aesthetic without spending any money. I'll insert clips of how I organize this. So I'm going to walk through the slides that I made for my goals. I made these slides for myself so I can better understand what my goals are for the year and what I'm trying to accomplish, because I think sometimes I have the idea but I don't fully organize it, and then it drops off before I can complete it. So I wrote it out and put that I wanted to try something different, kind of everything I explained at the beginning of this video. I also wanted to seek out 30 rejections this year. If you remember, one of the goals I listed was rejection, and that's what I meant by that. I see a lot of people on TikTok doing that, like rejection exposure therapy, and I struggle with a lot of anxiety, and I feel like actually trying to go for what I want and risk rejection is actually a really good thing, and that when you go in with the mindset of I want to be rejected, it completely changes the way you view the interaction, because the rejection is what you were aiming for. So technically you succeeded if you get rejected. And if you actually get what you asked for, then you also succeeded. So it's a win-win either way. And I've heard some people say like 100 in a year. That's a lot for me. And I don't do a lot to even get rejected. Like I don't even know what I would ask for. If you have some ideas, put that in the description, put that in the comments below. And I will create a list of all your ideas and actually go out for them and probably film it. And you can see how that goes, especially if maybe there's something you want to try, but you're too scared to do. Put it in the comments and I'll try it for you. So to go more in depth, like I mentioned earlier, I put prayers to each of my goal. So I wrote, may the Lord bring to me what aligns with his path and reject anything that doesn't, and may I be strong enough to serve him wherever I may end up. So with seeking out rejection, I think it also helps me filter through certain ideas or goals or pathways I may want to be on. While I seek out rejection, it doesn't lead me to a wrong path or somewhere where I shouldn't be or somewhere where I might be unsafe, and I just don't see it yet. So I still want the Lord's guidance in that it still has that protection of God over me with whatever I seek. And I think also when you seek out rejection, you're more open to asking for like crazier things maybe you wouldn't normally ask for. So I also want that guidance to ensure that if I'm rejected for something, I'm okay. If it actually leads to something, I'm still okay. And so then I also had creativity, and I said, please allow all of my creations and ideas to exalt you. May it be shared to spread your word and glory. And normally I keep any sort of spirituality outside of anything I do, because I just don't really like talking about spirituality with other people, because I think it can be such a contested idea or controversial ideas, and everyone has their own belief systems or lack of belief systems, and I usually just don't even bring it up. But I've been wanting to do that more because it feels like I'm lying to myself and others by acting like I don't believe in a higher power. I don't have this interfaith of ideas that rely on like the belief of spirituality. So within that, when I want to be creative, like making YouTube videos, I actually want to bring up that side of me more and show that I can still serve God, even in a way that doesn't necessarily look like how other people might be serving God. So that I can spread the word in a way that isn't preachy or talking down on people. I think sometimes when people talk about religion or spirituality, it's like, you should do this, you have to do this, and if you don't do this, then you're doing it wrong. And I think it can get to very like judgmental territory, and I don't like that at all. And I really want to show that that's not what God wants either. As someone who serves a higher power, I don't believe that the goal is to be like judgmental or put people down. I think a lot of things in multiple religions really show the opposite of trying to uplift people, treat people how you want to be treated, move through the world with kindness and charity. And that's what I want to do through all of my creative endeavors, whether it's through YouTube videos, any other social media. I'm writing. I'm also starting a nonprofit, which I can talk about more in another video, which has some creative elements to it. And through all of that, I want to show that you can serve the Lord in many ways and still glorify his name and still be kind and understanding and open-minded towards others. And then I have charity. It says, may the Lord allow me to use my abilities to help others. May he take into account my limitations and allow all my acts of kindness to be a form of charity. I say that because I think sometimes it can be hard to actually go out and do charity, and a lot of times charity just becomes donating money to certain organizations, which of course is not a bad thing. That's great. Donate money if you can. But then sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough if I'm not actually doing hands-on work. But then I also need to look at my own limitations of what can I actually do, where can I actually go, who can I actually help. So I pray that the Lord sees all of my efforts as a form of charity, because I think sometimes we do more charity than we even realize, because we only count the big things. Like, did I actually go to the soup kitchen and hand out food? Did I actually bring my clothes to the donation bin or Goodwill or wherever you donate your clothes to? And then we don't count little things of, like, when we see somebody and we give them some money when there's like sitting on the street, or if sometimes, depending on where you live, but I know where I live, like in your car at a light, sometimes people come up to your window asking for money, or they might be selling something. And it's like, yeah, I do have change. I can give you some money. And those are little acts of charity that we can do pretty much, maybe not daily, but almost like every week. And even the way we help the people we're around. I think sometimes we think charity is helping someone, as I often hear, it's like less fortunate than us. And depending on how you view that term, that can kind of be offensive to call anybody less fortunate, because it's like, what's fortune? Is money the only fortune? It depends on how you look at it, but that's why I put it into quotes. But either way, sometimes you're doing charity with people who have things, who maybe even have more than you. But I think like taking the time to help anybody is a good act that we should focus more on. And I think when you're more like when you're actually acknowledging it and going, I want to do kind acts or I want to do acts of charity, it makes you do it more than if you're just like, of course, everybody wants to help people out. Well, most people want to help people out. But if you're not consciously thinking about it, you may miss certain opportunities. And I'll give the example of helping my family. I think sometimes you kind of just don't really think about it or don't even really care to, especially if it's something that happens every day. Like like washing the dishes at my parents' house. You might think the dishes always need to be washed. Is that really a big deal whether I do it or don't do it? But then it does really help them out when I wash the dishes. And even though it's not the biggest thing in the world, they appreciate it. And I think sometimes it seems like such a menial task. You're like, well, that's not charity. Or whether I do it or not, like I'm not even going to do it because it doesn't even matter. But when you go looking to help people, you notice those little things and it's like, yeah, I will wash the dishes because that's helping them in a little way, even though it's not like a major act of kindness or a major act of charity. It's still some little things we can do. And I pray that the Lord recognizes my attempt of trying to help people out. And as I mentioned, I'm starting a nonprofit to help out neurodivergent adults. So that's kind of a bigger act of charity I'm aiming for, but I'll definitely do a full video on that another time because I can't fit this all in one video and it's already becoming very long. So my next goal was knowledge, and the prayer I wrote was, please guide my pursuit of knowledge and wisdom so that it may be fruitful and my efforts always prosper as a sign of your strength and the power of having faith in you. So I really wanted to not just pursue knowledge and learn and grow and develop as a human being, and even in my professional life. Like my goal is to be an educator. My new job, like my old job was being a teacher. My new job is also to be a teacher. I'm just changing different grade levels. But obviously you're pursuing knowledge in those endeavors. But in everything, I want to find knowledge and have it prosper in a way that shows people that the only way I could have achieved all of this is by having faith in God, and that when you have faith in God, so many doors open up, so much knowledge opens up, so many opportunities, and that truly I wouldn't have any of this without having my faith in the Lord. And like I said, in another video, I'll probably go more in depth about my new job, and maybe I'll even do a vlog on me like moving and doing all of that stuff for my new job. But I wanted to show that, one, God has the strength and the power to give us pretty much anything you would want that aligns with his will, as well as having faith actually pays off through all of the rejections of jobs, all of the hard work. And I'm moving to another state for this job and it seems scary. And I think like, well, God could have given you a job where you currently live, or, there's different ways you can think of it. But I want to show that I'm going to have complete faith in God. I'm going to move to this new state. I'm going to start this new job and show that it actually does pay off, as scary as it is, as much as you may want to question it and think, couldn't things maybe worked out better? Like in theory, you might say, oh, why couldn't God have given you a job where you live, paying you as much as you would want to pay in the grade level you want to teach at and everything fall perfectly? But I do think I don't always know what I want. Like sometimes on paper, something can sound good, or if I planned it all out myself, I would think it's the perfect move, but really it isn't. And God can see everything in advance and know like that actually wouldn't work out. Like if you stayed in this state, you would actually hate it, or if you went to this school, it wouldn't have been as good as you thought it was. So letting go and letting God and just having faith, and then letting that faith pay off so that when other people see me, whether it's a stranger on the street or my family or whoever, they can recognize that having faith actually does pay off. And it's not just this blind gamble of choosing to look on the brighter side, but that sometimes the Lord actually guides you someplace you didn't know you needed to be. I'm getting kind of wordy for all of these, so I'm going to try to speed up. Being alive is so vague, but I wrote, please place joy and peace in my life and remove this pain from me. May my works inspire others to serve you. And I set this goal just because, as I kind of previously mentioned, it's hard to always have motivation to really live. And I've been facing a lot of demoralization, I would say recently, but I think actually for a longer time than I would care to admit. And that I'm just kind of going through the phases of life because I have to, not necessarily because I want to. So I want to remotivate myself, re-inspire myself to actually live life and enjoy it, because I do a lot of things. I travel, I do hobbies, I do stuff, but it's not even fun for me. It's just, I feel like I need to do things to tell people when they ask me, what did you do over the weekend? So I do stuff over the weekend so I can answer that question. If they ask me what hobbies I have, I do hobbies just so I can say I do hobbies, not because I feel any strong tie to it. And I don't want to go through my whole mental health history, but through all of that, it made me create the goal of just trying to enjoy being alive more and finding peace in my life. and hopefully the Lord removes any mental pain from me. Not any, because I think we still need some pain, but that exaggerated form of mental pain where you can't get out of bed and you start having like mental health issues is what I'm trying to avoid and grow and use coping mechanisms to better live my life in a way where I'm not just surviving, but I'm actually thriving. And for my goals is basically what I mentioned previously in the video, that I'm focusing on stewardship this year to grow in my faith and be more grateful, and not always focusing on trying to get the next best thing, but actually utilizing the blessings I already have. And the little image on the side is what I made in Pinterest. I love making Pinterest collages, even though I hate Pinterest now because of all the ads and AI, and it's just so annoying. But I kind of made this before that really got worse. I feel like now Pinterest is like, it's unusable with how much ads there is, how many ads there are. But still, I had this Pinterest collage made kind of to focus on ideas of stewardship. It's kind of hard to see because it's small, but it says like find the good in each day and work hard and be nice. And I think, again, it's that lay down your bucket where you are. And sometimes I just forget to notice all the blessings I already have, all the luck I already have, all the good things that are in my life. I'm lucky enough to have like a kitchen I can cook and a bed I can sleep in, and just taking those moments. Like, I don't even mean it in a we need to be grateful for everything we have, which like we do. But a lot of times I lay in bed and I go to sleep. I don't lay in bed and think, oh, how warm the covers are, how soft the blanket is. And I like laying in bed. I like sleeping. And again, with that whole being alive mentality, it's even when I'm in a depressive slump, it's like I get to be in a depressive slump in a warm, cozy bed. And not everybody has that. And it could be totally different for me. So even sometimes focusing on that can help me enjoy my life better, or at least not fall deeper into any slumps. Because I kind of think of, let me be comfortable in my depression or in my anxiety or in my whatever. And I'm lucky enough that I can be comfortable in those moments. And I think mentally, like consciously recognizing that is beneficial for me personally, maybe not for everyone. I know sometimes in certain slumps, it can feel like, well, I would be sad if I was in a bed or on the floor. Like, it doesn't really matter. I'm too deep in it to notice these things or to even care. And I get that too. But right now it's been working for me, and I've been in a better mood recently, and it might help somebody else to just notice those little things. Like, even when you're depressed and you don't want to brush your teeth, I'm kind of like, well, it's uncomfortable to lay in bed with like feeling like the plaque on your teeth. Like, for me, that's uncomfortable. I'm kind of sensitive to certain sensory inputs. So I know that's not everybody, but I think, let me brush my teeth and then I can lay right back in bed and be depressed. Like, it's not, oh, you have to get up and do things, but now let's lay in bed with clean teeth that aren't bothering you, or even taking a shower. So like, oh, I've been laying in bed for 3 days straight and I don't like the way I smell. But it's like, wouldn't you be a little bit more comfortable laying in bed depressed after a shower than laying in bed depressed without a shower? And sometimes that motivates me to do things I wouldn't otherwise do in a depressive slump. So I also made this conclusion page, and as you see, there's no real writing on it yet. It's still just the filler words because I'm saving that for the end of the year for me to debrief on how all of this worked out and if this is something I want to try again for next year. And I also made some hole punch cards for my goals where I kind of categorize different hobbies and activities I want to do under each of the goals that I just went over. So like under creativity, I categorize hobbies like sew more and write more, and made hole punch cards for that. But that's going to be the next video after this, and I'll explain that better there. And I've been using Notion and a physical journal to record my efforts every year. If you would like a Notion or journal walkthrough, like a separate video sometime in the future, then please leave that in the comments and I'll happily do that. If you made it this far in the video, I would love to know what your New Year's goals were, or your mid-year goals, or your whatever time of the year goals are, or what you've achieved so far. And thank you. Bye.